Philosophy is one of the oldest human activities. It began thousands of years ago, when humans first started to question the world around them. Not just to survive, but to understand. It is about seeking deeper understanding, while science tries to explain how things work. Philosophy asks why they exist at all. In this video, we will explore the basics and the main principles of philosophy, explained in a simple and calm way. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and relax your mind. Part 1. Metaphysics. Reality is the study of reality. It asks, what truly exists? Not just what you see, but what is real beyond appearances. When you look around you, everything feels real. The objects, the sounds, the people. But how can you be sure that what you experience is truly reality? This is where metaphysics begins. It invites you to question the nature of existence. One of the earliest thinkers, Plato, believed that reality is not what we see. According to him, the world we experience is only a shadow, a reflection of a deeper, perfect reality. He imagined that what we perceive is like watching shadows on a wall, while the true forms exist somewhere beyond, a world more real than anything we can touch. On the other hand, Aristotle had a different view. He believed reality is what we can observe, what we can study and understand through experience. For him, the physical world is not an illusion. It is the true reality. Two philosophers, two very different ideas, yet both trying to answer the same question. What is real? Metaphysics also asks, what is the nature of existence? Why is there something instead of nothing? This question may seem simple, but it is one of the deepest questions ever asked. Think about it. Why does the universe exist? Why do you exist? Why is there a world at all? Metaphysics does not give a single answer. Instead, it opens the door to different possibilities. Some philosophers believe that everything is made of matter, physical objects, atoms, energy. Others believe that reality is mental, that everything exists in the mind. And some believe reality is a combination of both. Another important question in metaphysics is the idea of identity. What makes you, you? Is it your body, your memories, your thoughts, or something deeper? If everything about you changes over time, are you still the same person? Or are you someone new? Metaphysics also explores the nature of time. Is time real? Or is it something created by the human mind? The past no longer exists. The future does not yet exist. And the present disappears instantly. So what is time really? These questions may not have clear answers, but they change the way you see the world. Metaphysics teaches you that reality is not always what it seems. It shows you that behind everything you experience, there are deeper questions waiting to be explored. And as you begin to reflect on these ideas, you may start to realize that reality is not something simple, but something mysterious, complex, and endlessly fascinating. Art 2. Epistemology, knowledge. Epistemology is the study of knowledge. It asks, how do we know what we know? Every day, you believe many things. You believe the world around you is real. You believe your memories are true. You believe your senses are reliable. But epistemology asks, can you be sure? Can you trust what you see, what you hear, what you feel? Or could everything be an illusion? This question has been explored for centuries. One of the most famous philosophers, René Descartes, decided to doubt everything. He imagined that all his senses could deceive him, that the world might not be real, that even his body could be an illusion. He doubted everything until he found one truth, something he could not doubt, the fact that he was thinking. And from that, he concluded, I think, therefore I am. Even if everything is false, the act of thinking proves that you exist. This idea became one of the foundations of modern philosophy. Epistemology also asks, what is knowledge? Is knowledge simply believing something? Or is it more than that? Philosophers often say, knowledge is justified true belief, which means you believe something. It is true, and you have good reasons to believe it. But even this definition has been questioned, because sometimes you can believe something, have good reasons, and still be wrong. This shows that knowledge is not always simple. Another important question is where knowledge comes from. Some philosophers believe knowledge comes from experience, from what we see, hear, and feel. This idea is called empiricism. Others believe knowledge comes from reason, from thinking, logic, and understanding. This is called rationalism. Two different approaches, one based on the senses, the other on the mind. Epistemology also explores the limits of knowledge. Are there things we can never know? Questions that are impossible to answer? For example, can you truly know what another person is thinking? Can you be completely certain about anything? Or is all knowledge uncertain? These questions may feel unsettling, but they are important because they teach us to think carefully, to question assumptions, and to avoid blind belief. Epistemology does not try to destroy knowledge. It tries to strengthen it by understanding how it works and where it comes from. As you reflect on these ideas, you may begin to notice that what you call knowledge is not always certain. It is something that must be examined, questioned, and understood. And in doing so, you become not just someone who believes, but someone who truly thinks. Part 3: Ethics, Good and Bad. Ethics is the study of right and wrong. It asks, how should we live? Every day, you make choices, some small, some important, and behind every choice, there is a question. Is this right or wrong? Ethics tries to understand how we decide what is good and what is bad. But the answer is not always simple. What seems right to one person may seem wrong to another. This is why philosophers have developed different ways to understand morality. One of the most important thinkers, Immanuel Kant, believed that morality is based on rules. According to him, an action is right if it follows a moral law, no matter the consequences. For example, telling the truth is always the right thing to do, even if it leads to a bad result. For Kant, doing the right thing is about duty, not about outcomes. On the other hand, John Stuart Mill had a very different idea. He believed that the result of an action is what matters most. According to him, the best action is the one that creates the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. This idea is known as utilitarianism. In this view, an action can be right, even if it breaks a rule, as long as it leads to a better outcome. Two different philosophies, one based on rules, the other on results. Ethics also asks, what is a good life? Is it a life of pleasure, a life of success, or a life of virtue? Some philosophers believe a good life is about developing good character, being honest, being kind, being just, not just in actions, but in who you are. Ethics is not only about big decisions. It is also about small moments. The way you treat others, the way you speak, the way you think. Another important question is whether morality is universal. Are there rules that apply to everyone, everywhere? Or does morality change depending on culture, society, or personal belief? Some believe there are universal values, such as justice and fairness. Others believe morality is relative and depends on perspective. Ethics also explores responsibility. Are you responsible for your actions? Or are your choices influenced by forces beyond your control? This question connects to freedom and to the idea of choice. Because if you are not free, can you truly be responsible? Ethics does not give one final answer. Instead, it gives you tools to think about your actions, to reflect, and to choose with awareness. As you continue to think about these ideas, you may begin to notice that every decision you make is not just an action, but a reflection of what you believe about right and wrong. Part 4. Logic. How to think clearly. Logic is the study of reasoning. It teaches us how to think clearly and how to avoid mistakes. Every day, you form ideas, you make decisions, you draw conclusions. But how do you know if your thinking is correct? Logic helps answer this question. It provides rules, not about what to think, but about how to think. One of the simplest examples of logic is a basic argument. If all humans are mortal, and you are human, then you are mortal. This type of reasoning is called deduction, where the conclusion follows necessarily from the premises. If the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. But not all reasoning works this way. Sometimes we use induction, which means we observe patterns and make general conclusions. For example, if you see the sun rise every day, you expect it will rise again tomorrow. But unlike deduction, induction is not certain. It is based on probability and experience. Logic also teaches us about errors in thinking. These errors are called fallacies. They are arguments that seem correct, but are actually flawed. For example, assuming something is true just because many people believe it, or attacking a person instead of their argument. These are common mistakes that logic helps us avoid. Another important idea is consistency. A logical system must not contain contradictions. If two ideas oppose each other, they cannot both be true. At least, not in the same way. Logic also plays a role in many areas. In science, in mathematics, in law, and even in everyday conversations. When you argue, when you explain, when you try to convince, you are using logic, even if you are not aware of it. Logic helps you separate truth from error. It allows you to examine ideas carefully instead of accepting them without question. But logic alone is not enough, because logic works with structure, not with truth itself. An argument can be logical, but based on false premises, which leads to a false conclusion. This is why logic must be combined with knowledge and observation to reach reliable understanding. Another interesting aspect of logic is that it reveals the limits of thinking. Some questions create paradoxes, situations where logic seems to lead to contradiction. These paradoxes challenge our understanding and push us to think deeper. Logic does not remove mystery. It refines it. It helps us approach problems with clarity, with precision, and with discipline. As you begin to apply logic, you may notice that your thinking becomes sharper, more structured, more careful. You start to see weak arguments and stronger ones, you begin to question not just what others say, but also your own thoughts. And slowly, you develop a clearer mind, one that is not easily confused or misled. Logic is not just a tool, it is a discipline, a way of thinking that brings order to the complexity of ideas. Part 5: Existentialism, a Meaning of Life. Existentialism is the study of existence. It asks, what is the meaning of life? And why are we here? Unlike other philosophies, existentialism focuses on the individual, on your choices, your freedom, and your responsibility. One of the most famous existentialists, Jean-Paul Sartre, believed that life has no fixed meaning, that there is no universal purpose given to us by the world. Instead, each person must create their own meaning through their actions, decisions, and commitments. According to Sartre, we are condemned to be free, which means we cannot avoid choosing. Even choosing not to choose is itself a choice. This freedom is both a blessing and a burden, because it gives you control over your life, but it also brings responsibility. Every action, every decision defines who you are. Another key thinker, Friedrich Nietzsche, emphasized the need to create your own values, rejecting imposed morality from society, religion, or tradition. Nietzsche believed that individuals must overcome limitations and embrace life fully. This idea encourages self-discovery and personal growth. Existentialism also explores anxiety, or what Sartre called angst, the feeling that comes from realizing your freedom, that your life depends on your choices, and that there are no absolute guides to tell you what is right. This can feel overwhelming, but existentialism teaches that it is also empowering. By accepting responsibility, you take control of your life. Another important concept is authenticity. Living authentically means acting in accordance with your true self, not pretending, not following the crowd blindly. Authenticity requires courage to face the truth about yourself, to make decisions that reflect your values, and to accept the consequences. Existentialism also addresses death, because life has no inherent meaning. Each moment becomes precious. Every choice, every action matters. It teaches to live fully, to embrace the present, and to create purpose, even in a universe that may seem indifferent. In daily life, existentialism helps you reflect on your decisions. It encourages self-awareness, to examine your goals, your habits, your relationships, and ask yourself, are these choices really mine? Or am I following someone else's path? Existentialism does not give easy answers, but it empowers you to live deliberately, consciously, and fully. By understanding existentialism, you may begin to see that life's meaning is not given. It is created by you, moment by moment, choice by choice. And this understanding can transform the way you live, giving each action a deeper significance, even in a world without predefined meaning. You have the power to make your life meaningful. Part 6: Stoicism, Control and Inner Peace. Stoicism is a philosophy of calm and resilience. It teaches that some things are within your control and some things are not. By understanding this, you can live with less stress. One of the key ideas of Stoicism is focusing only on what you can influence. The rest is not worth worrying about. The philosopher Epictetus said, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the view we take of them." In other words, it is not events that cause suffering, but how we think about them. If you accept what happens and focus on your response, you gain inner peace. Another important Stoic, Marcus Aurelius, practiced these ideas daily. He wrote in his personal notes about self-control, humility, and the importance of reason. Stoicism teaches that life will always have challenges, loss, pain, failure, but your mind is the key to how you experience them. If you remain rational, calm, and disciplined, you can face difficulties without being overwhelmed. Stoicism also emphasizes virtue. Virtue means living according to reason and moral principles, honesty, courage, justice. These are more important than wealth, fame, or pleasure. Another Stoic concept is the idea of impermanence. Everything in life changes. People, possessions, circumstances. By accepting this, you reduce attachment and suffering. Stoicism encourages reflection every day to ask yourself, what is in my control? What is not? And how I should respond. This practice builds emotional strength and prepares you to face life's uncertainties with composure. Stoicism also teaches gratitude, to appreciate what you have, rather than focusing on what you lack. This mindset cultivates contentment, even in difficult times. The Stoics also emphasize community and helping others, because living virtuously is not just for yourself, but for the greater good. By practicing Stoicism, you develop resilience, wisdom, and peace of mind. It is a philosophy, not just to read about, but to live every day. By applying Stoic principles, you can remain calm, focused, and balanced, even when life is unpredictable. And as you embrace Stoicism, you begin to realize that true happiness does not depend on external events, but on how you think, how you act, and how you respond. This inner freedom is at the heart of Stoic philosophy, and it can transform the way you live. This is part 1, an introduction to the first discipline of philosophy, metaphysics. If you want to know more, and explore the next parts of philosophy. Comment part 2 below.